All right, so Ian Deason, Renaissance Guy turns to change, as always. Hi to my new subscribers, and if you like this video, subscribe and like down at the bottom. So this is a kind of a new thing. This is my friend Newman. We've known each other for
how many years now?
God.
2010, about 12, 13 years
13
now.
years
13
ago.
years now.
13 years, yeah. We met when I was working at, I don't know if we're allowed to say the certain where the trade go, builders merchants in England. Okay, so where the trade goes apparently. So yeah, we've each come through different lives, and so at the moment, what just explain a bit about what you're doing for work at the moment.
So, my work, I mean, obviously I've known Ian a very long time. I've known him over 12, 13 years. At the moment I work with victims of modern day slavery and human trafficking. I won't mention the charity or anything like that, but we work with people who've been exploited and victimised, people who've been trafficked into the country. It's quite far-reaching, is human trafficking. We work with people with substance misuse issues, people with complex mental health needs. A lot of our clients, unfortunately, have been led into trafficking and modern day slavery due to a lot of factors, where they are quite vulnerable, i.e. learning disabilities, like I just mentioned, mental health conditions, substance misuse. Some people just, unfortunately, you get a lot of homeless people who fall prey to a lot of these exploiters. People who are trafficked into the country, so it's quite different from when we first met Ian, to be honest with you.
It was indeed. So I mean, just as a segue, we think, with our lives, those of us who, we've got regular jobs and houses and stuff. Yeah, we're finding it tough, but you just kind of think, just sometimes, when with what you're dealing with, you just think, actually we're not that bad off, are we? Really, we're not that bad off. So, really, obviously, you're dealing with, and we've both come through challenges and trials and
Absolutely.
stuff, and overcoming things, but. We both have different ways of overcoming it, and obviously you're working with the people you work with. Obviously, there are other things. So, this channel, Trends to Change, isn't just about training, lifting weights and going, it's all about changing yourself, matching your mentality, your emotion, getting a well-balanced all-round thing. Because I mean, at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, it's not just about looking good, it's about longevity. But when you're in a position, we all know there's a cycle where it's a self-repeating cycle, and it kind of goes down and down and down, and somewhere along the lines you've got to break the cycle.
Absolutely.
So, with what you work as and how you get people, how do you start introducing breaking this cycle?
I think it's a lot of it's dependent on the client and their ability to engage. I think a lot of it, when we get a lot of clients coming in, we have to assess the situation that they're in. A lot of them, a lot of clients that I've sort of worked with have got sort of prior issues that have led them to get to the situation that they're currently face themselves in. A lot of my British clients in particular, so looking at the dependency issues, looking at help, looking at counselling. Sometimes with some of my clients, i.e. clients who've been victims of county lines, it's looking at the backgrounds. A lot of them have been exploited due to I hate to say this, but they've not really had a strong parental figure in their lives. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to introduce, accountability, responsibility, getting role modelling, so role modelling behaviour, looking at what life can be without being involved in drug crime. It's difficult, unfortunately, because my role is so far-reaching. There's county lines. There's so many different aspects to trafficking. A lot of my clientele who have been who are victims of sort of county lines, and they have been exploited through that. It can be quite difficult because a lot of the times they're introduced to there's a financial incentive to what they do, and a lot of them are very, very young. So when they see this financial incentive, they see £500 in cash, they see £1,000 in cash. It's a lot of money for them if they've grown up in care, in council estates, if they've not had a strong parental figure. They don't really know what they want to do, i.e. what job they want to do. It's ideally, really, it's finding purpose in their life, finding something they want to do, a goal. I think role modelling is really, really effective with some of my clients who, are involved in county lines. My other clients who come from overseas, that can be completely different. I mean, a lot of that's applying for asylum, looking at specific jobs and roles that they might want to do while they're in this country, if they want to stay in the country. It's quite far-reaching, to be honest with you. But what I try to implement, Ian, is coaching. I look at what that person wants to do, have a good think, look at that big goal, and then bite-size it, and then look at tiny chunks into how they achieve that goal.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I learned as a personal trainer, you've got such a, like I say, you've got such a wide spectrum. I mean, that's the beauty about this sort of thing, and it can go into life in anything. Is that you've got to take things steady. You've got to introduce new ideas, and I think as well it is that bite-sized sort of thing. It's step by step, and just saying, hey, you know what? Just today, let's try this. I think as well is the amount of low self-esteem as well that comes along with it, and because they're in this cycle of low self-esteem, like I said, there's no role models, there's nothing for them to sort of grasp onto. They'll even actually defend the enslavement of that life that they have. And I mean, it's I think Morpheus in the Matrix, just breaking up into the Matrix, is that they're so dependent on the system or the system of their life, and so dependent on that, they'll actually fight to defend that which so Absolutely. You're actually fighting against their mentality. And I know as a personal trainer, it's a similar sort of thing, because you're trying to get them to change for the better, but they've been living in this thing, and for them it's normalization. It is that normal thing. This is what it is. I'll give you an and it's fighting against the changes, fighting against, well, not fighting, but sort of trying to get through the mentality, the personality and everything else to get them to really see their value. And when I used to PT that, I mean, I'll give you an instance. When I used to personal train, I used to say to people about changing the diet, and they say, "Oh, I can't eat that. I'll get bored of that." And say, "Well, what did you eat? What have you been eating for breakfast so far?" And they'll go like shredded wheat or cornflakes. And you'll try to, and they say, "Well, how long have you been that?" "Oh, I've been eating it for 20 years." And like, "Well, you've been eating for that every day for 20 years, but you're going to get bored of, let's say, boiled eggs for breakfast for the next 2 weeks." What they really want to do is they want to stay in where they are, but they want to have something better, but they don't want to make that initial changeover to what it is, and it's a real fight. But I mean, the thing is, I think the fantastic thing is once you get through the change isn't bad, that yes, it is change, that yes, it's going against what they accept as normal, they actually start looking out, and you'll see this little glitter of sort of like something like this hope, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see that. I mean, but it's a vicious trap. I mean, I know from my experience when I was divorced and I had a lot of issues going on and stuff like that, and I literally had to strip myself back to basics and really ask myself, am I happy with that? And I think as well as change, it's so uncomfortable, scary. Everything else, all the emotional things. And I literally, when I took it all back, the next morning I wouldn't go. I told this story before. I wouldn't go anywhere without my brother or sister. And the next day I went out by myself after I did all that, and I went out and I'm going for a walk. And my brother and sister were like, "And bless them, oh, do you want us to go with you?" I'm like, "Nope. Yeah, I'm going out for a walk. I'm going out for a run. I'm going to start getting myself back on track." And I mean, literally, when I went out by myself, it was sort of like. And then, as I kind of did that, I went walking Leeds Liverpool Canal, and a little bit running, a little bit walking, and that familiarity. And as soon as they sort of come out of the change, but then suddenly find the familiarity in that change as well, because there'll always be that change, but eventually they'll find that familiar, and they'll go, "Actually, yeah, this is something that I recognise."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I think that's such a key thing. Self-worth, and especially at this time where everybody's self-worth is being destroyed on social media and everything else. And I know we're on social media at the moment on YouTube, but this is why I'm trying to do that, is to really get that self-worth up. I mean, what obviously you've had some successes and failures. So when you have that success, can you sort of explain to how they react to the success. I mean, you know, once you get them on that change, what they're like, you know.
Well, success. Once you start looking at goals and your own life, and you can see positive changes in your life, it becomes addictive. So I think we can all relate to this. I think once you make a positive change, that change may be hard to begin with, but once you make that change and you see positive results, it does become, like I just said, addictive, and you want to see more of that, and then more change is brought. And I think that's a big part of my life, is positive change. And I mean, Ian, I've known Ian a very long time. When I was a young man, I was quite chaotic to put it lightly.
We
really.
both were. We both were.
Yeah.
We both were.
We were both in sort of dark places. I'm going to be completely honest with you, but through myself, you know, doing marathons, doing strength training, going to the gym, lifting weights, I saw that as it obviously you get endorphins. You feel better about yourself. You feel more confident. You feel more positive. I think that, in retrospect, I mean, a lot of what I do within my work is trying to empower people to be positive, to have healthy relationships. A lot of it's sort of recovery needs from their own trafficking experience, and I think definitely from my perspective, and you know, Ian's perspective, positive change can be implemented within your life as long as you're seeing these results. I think that myself, from my life, I mean, I'm, you know, towards my mid to late 30s now, and I look at myself when I was in my early 20s, and I lived a lifestyle where I was at a specific crossroads, really. You know, I could have made some poor choices, and I wouldn't probably be sat here talking with Ian now.
Yeah.
But then again, that comes a lot from meeting Ian as well, and having some, you know, positive role models within my life. I think when I've mentioned role modelling, I think that is really important. I think when I met Ian, I'll be honest, I did a lot of positive role modelling there. When you're getting taught the difference between right and wrong, suffice to say, if you're dragged up and you're not taught morality, you have little understanding as right and wrong, you need to be taught that. And you can be taught that, but it takes someone to teach you that.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's teaching and learning, and actually seeing that comprehension done, and then actually connecting it together. I think usually, I mean, people kind of intellectually know about this and this and this, but in order to really get that sort of absolute moving forwards, it has to be that connection into your life. And and I think it's a balance as well, because I mean, especially with what you're talking about with some of the people, is, you know, you want them to go into relationships, not just, you know, romantic relationship, but any sort of friendship, work relationships, everything else like that. And in essence, they're coming out of a really toxic, bad relationship with whatever they have. And when they come out of that and they start changing, I think any sort of relationship, you've got to teach them to accept that not every relationship is going to be that way. That there can be healthy relationships, and teach them how to guard against the ones that are going to destroy them, but embrace and bring in those things that are going to build them up, and teach them that, you know, I think the other thing is in any sort of relationship, when you come out of a bad one, whatever it may be, is that you'll always look for those red flag things, right? You know, you've often heard it, and when somebody comes out that, they look out for the red flag, and you can have people do, you know, a lot for another person. And then as soon as that person who's doing it for the other person does something wrong, oh, that's a red flag, that's a red flag. It's not, it's just you've got to teach them then that people are flawed. We all make mistakes, and there's so much that you've got, especially with these people, there's so much, and you've got to say, look, you know, you've got to develop your self-worth. You've got to also remember that other people have that self-worth, and to kind of, I think it's a case of looking after yourself just as much as another person, and getting them to sort of, you know, have a balance on everything, and that just because somebody else makes a mistake, it's not necessarily exactly. So I think ultimately it does come down to how you do change within yourself. And there's always got to be that flowing flexibility. I think Bruce Lee said it best when he said, "Be as water." To flow with the situation and to recognize where it is and to flow the right way, rather than just float all over and just be, well, you've got to have that certain flow and that certain direction, and to take it that way. But
wise man.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody, a few people when I got divorced were saying, "Oh, you've got to read The Secret. You've got to, at the event." I don't know. I mean, if it helps people, The Secret. If it helps you, then read it. But I mean, for me, personally, I just couldn't get on with it. But I read the Tao of Bruce Lee. And that made sense to me.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, I devoured that, and I mean, coming back to my martial arts, because we've both been involved in martial arts.
Yeah, we both have.
Yeah, kickboxing, Jeet Kune Do and stuff. And I think, again, with what Bruce Lee said, it's balancing the spiritual, the mental and emotional along with the physical, and to be rounded in everything, so that everything blends into everything else, so that you act upon, rather than just reacting blindly to a situation, which I think, when you start getting people to see that and start moving forwards, I think that is one of the cruxes. And to remember that, I think the really important thing is we're all responsible for our own happiness. Whatever you are in, ultimately you are responsible for your happiness, whatever situation you may be in. And the important thing is to change is that nobody can influence you to be angry. You make the choice. No, you make the choice. You make the choice to be angry, happy, sad, whatever. Yeah. And I mean, it's okay to have those feelings, but to sort of move it towards a thing where you learn and grow and develop as a person inside, so you can actually grow, and then eventually, as I'm doing now with Newman, reaching out to those people. So the whole idea of this video is just go through a few things, because Newman and I have been through a lot and still do, and challenging, and but I mean, despite the challenges, I'd say pretty much we're happy, we're moving forwards, and I mean, things move forwards, and
making what the best of things.
Well, exactly. I mean, some things do suck, they do, so without going into too much, and I just think is that whilst things do, there's always opportunities for another day.
There is.
And there is a future, and I know that there's an awful lot of things, this is happening, that's happening, but there's a life out there, and if you apply yourself, and you like you said, small changes in different ways in each time, I mean, I know it's silly, but I remember listening to that military guy, if you want to change the world, make your bed in the morning.
Yeah.
As soon as you achieve something, you have an achievement at the start of the day, and it's funny because you know what, I know it's really weird, but if I don't make my bed in the morning, I'm chaotic. And not because I haven't made my bed, but it's the fact that I haven't achieved anything. Before I step out the door, I've achieved something. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and actually find that small thing, I'll solve other problems as I go along. And even if I have a crappy day, I can still look back and, well, you know what, I've got a few things, and I've achieved a few things, and I'm going back to a well-made bed, and I can get in and hide. At least I can hide underneath it. I can hide underneath the duvet without having to make my bed. So I hide underneath the duvet. That's a good point. So you've always got a bed a good bed to go on hiding after the end of the day. But what I will say is which is I want to introduce this video. Like I said, this is the first time with Newman. If there is anybody who is sort of need of a bit of a boost, who needs to find a way to get out of things, show them the video, and it's pretty much done. And I'm not doing this. It'd be nice if I did make money of it, but chances are I'm not going to. But the whole reason for doing this is to help people. So, any final thoughts on life and anything that you've found that really has sort of got you moving forwards, so something that somebody can go, yeah, actually I'll do that today?
Positive mental attitude, I think, overall. I think that when it comes to your life, it's not it's making the best of things. It's not having, when you look at, we live in a very material world. You know, we have everyone's a consumer these days, and I think that we've got social media doesn't help. You know, it projects an image of society and this idyllic life that we should all be leading.
Apart from this video.
Apart from this video. But I think we have to be real, and I think that what works for one won't necessarily work for another. Make the best of your life and just be appreciative. Just appreciate everything. Be grateful for everything. Every day is a blessing. Just a warm meal is a blessing, to be honest with you. If you could always be on the other side of the coin, and from what I've seen in my own experiences, I used to feel sort of almost resentful that I didn't have this or I didn't have that. Working in the industry that I work in, and seeing the sort of things I've seen, I can honestly say I am incredibly blessed and grateful for my life. Just having, you know, clothes on my back and a warm meal. That's honestly, it really is something to be grateful for. So positive mental attitude all the way. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, if your life's falling apart, there is hope, and there are people out there, and there's plenty of agencies out there and plenty of people you can talk to. My advice is, like Ian said, you might not be able to change the situation, but you can change your mindset, and that's what's most important.
Few quick charities that people can reach out. Samaritans, there's
Mind, there's a really good one that works with young men. We've got a lot of issues with sort of young men. I know the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide now.
What's that name?
What's it called now? Andy's Man Club. That's a really good one. I'm trying to think of some more. There is a few more. I've got a few. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
I think there's a few. I think if you type into Google mental health charities, you'll find a few on there. So just, you know, anything that you can do to pull yourself out. And I remember, like I said, the worth of a human soul really is actually it's not worthless as nothing, but it's just worthless in the fact that it can't be replaced. Human life can't be replaced. It's just absolutely beyond any sort of value, and you know, and your own as well. So, you know, place that on yourself as well. Remember that you are just as valuable as anybody else. You know, you may be in a real sort of spot, but you can change things around. I mean, there are so many people who have done, and they've gone on to huge things, massive things, and they've been able to be an influence to the world. So remember, you could do that. All you have to do is just reach out, let someone help you, and, you know, don't take offence if somebody turns to us, well, actually, you know what, if you tried doing this and suggest change, don't be offended. Don't be offended by somebody suggesting change, because usually they can, whilst you're in a sort of little ball like that, they're probably sort of seeing a huge globe thing. So sometimes when you're having a tough time, your vision is really skewed into that, and you can't see anything while somebody else can. So I think don't be offended, just turn around, and, you know, and it takes a lot of humility, but you can, you know, you can change it if you just let. And, you know, if you're going out to help people as well, like I said to you know, a few people I've helped, so look, I've just given that help. You're the one who's done the work, and you've got that. I'm just happy to have a little bit of an influence to move you forwards, but the rest of the work, the rest of what you've done, that's all down to you. And, you know, you've always got to remember your place in things, and the person who changes the most work is usually the person who has worked to make the change. So always remember that. All right, have a great day.
Peace and love.
Peace.